Mere concentration versus true surrender, taken from the book Radical Devotion by the Avataric great sage Adidas Samraj. 1. If you are my devotee, you must accept my teaching, revelation, that human life in and of itself is only egoity. As an unenlightened being, you are doing egoity, and nothing but egoity. As an unenlightened being, you are simply living out your egoic or separative destiny, and nothing else. The activity that is ego is not merely talking about yourself or being selfish. As I have revealed, ego is the very nature of humankind in its unreal or self-deluded disposition of unenlightenment. Therefore, the action that is the ego covers the earth. This revelation is absolutely fundamental to my divine avataric wisdom teaching. My divine avataric wisdom teaching about the nature of the ego covers everything that human beings do. Thus, my divine avataric wisdom teaching indicates exactly why egoic existence is hell, and why the domain of conditional manifestation altogether is the place of illusions and suffering. What should you do about the ego? I am here, and I have given you my divine avataric wisdom teaching about egoity. That wisdom teaching tells you exactly what to do in devotional recognition response to me. If you are, in any manner or to any degree, justifying yourself in your egoic position, you are thus and thereby refusing my divine avataric wisdom teaching. In that case, you are actively presuming that my divine avataric wisdom teaching is not correct. You think, yes, I do have problems and a negative self, but I also have all kinds of virtues. You believe your virtues are dominant because of the fact that you feel the impulse of devotion toward me, and you confess that you want to realize me. However, all such ego-congratulating thoughts and presumptions are, in truth and in reality, nothing but the outrageous denial game of narcissists. In the domain of unenlightenment, there is egoity. Apart from divine enlightenment, or most perfect divine self-realization, every action, every fraction of what human beings do is ego-bound, all of it. For your practice of the only by me revealed and given way of Adidam to be fruitful and effective, you must accept my radical teaching revelation relative to egoity. My radical teaching revelation relative to egoity covers everything in one stroke, everything about seeking and all the stages of life nonsense, whereby you idealize the egoic life. I have given you the unique seven-stage way. In the only by me revealed and given way of Adidam, all of the characteristic tendencies and motives of the first 6 stages of life are cancelled. In and of themselves, the first 6 stages of life are nothing but ego. Indeed, in and of themselves, the first 6 stages of life are the idealization of egoity. I have not communicated to you a way in which the 7th stage of life is the case only at the end of a lengthy process. The only by me revealed and given way of Adidam is not the way of all 7 stages of life. Rather, the only by me revealed and given way of Adidam is the way of the 7th stage of life, first, always, and only. The only by me revealed and given way of Adidam is the non-egoic way. The only by me revealed and given way of Adidam is the inherently and immediately ego-transcending way. This does not mean that ego vanishes merely because you become my formally practicing devotee, or merely because you read my divine avataric wisdom teaching. The ego certainly does not vanish merely because you wave a flag or raise a placard, insisting that you are not the ego anymore. The only by me revealed and given way of Adidam is the way that requires real ego transcendence in practice. As my devotee, devotionally recognizing me and devotionally responding to me, you must practice right relationship to me, turning all of the principal faculties to me, and forgetting all the contents of the faculties themselves. Practice of the only by me revealed and given way of Adidam is not a matter of growth through the stages of life. Rather, practice of the only by me revealed and given way of Adidam is a matter of progressively magnifying the fundamental ego-transcending process I describe in my divine avataric word. That is what you must do in relation to my avatarically born bodily human divine form. Worship me whole bodily with your life, and do not live egoity anymore. If you are my devotee, you must accept my teaching revelation, and you are 100% pure ego. That you are 100% pure ego. Not sort of good, sort of bad, not black and white or grey or in between. In the conditionally manifested worlds, egoity is absolute. Therefore, the transcending of egoity requires an absolute way. Devotional recognition response to me is the way that accommodates me absolutely. The egoic world is always grinding on. Therefore, as my devotee, I call you to locate that which is prior and to forget body and mind and world. To do so is not a matter of engaging some kind of exclusionary or dissociative game or strategy. Rather, to do so is a profundity that requires living the radical devotional way I have revealed and given. 2. Right practice of the only by me revealed and given way of Adidam does not allow self-meditation. If you are my true devotee, you necessarily turn to me in every moment, such that you cannot meditate on yourself. In any moment when you are not turning to me, you are inevitably meditating on yourself. In the circumstance of sitting in my divine avataric spiritual company, there are essentially two ego strategies manifested by my devotees who are not fully and rightly practicing in relationship to me. The first type is dull, merely staring at me with a poker face and trying to look good on the outside. The second type is merely sitting with eyes closed, inverting on some program inside the body-mind. And such people are essentially playing with themselves, looking for their own reflection inside. In any moment that you are engaging either of these two egoic strategies, you thereby have very little attention or energy left over for any real knowing of me. These two egoic strategies, the self-conscious attempt to look good outwardly and the inversion on one's own contents inwardly, are exactly what the practice of the only by me revealed and given way of Adidam is not. The way of Adidam is not a way of outward seeming, nor is the way of Adidam a way of inward inversion on self. In any moment, when you are not devotionally recognizing me and devotionally responding to me, you inevitably fall back on yourself. If you are not whole-bodily turned to me, you are merely thinking and buzzing along, entertaining whatever casual happenings arise in body, emotion, mind, or breath, and following your train of interior egoity. Such is not at all right practice of the only by me revealed and given way of Adidam. Rather, such is the ego self-manufactured substitute for right practice of the only by me revealed and given way of Adidam. The ego is constantly monitoring the system, like Narcissus, sitting there focused on the psychophysical event of the presumed self. Why are you so busy watching that event? Because you are anxiously anticipating the moment when that event will come to an end, when it inevitably will. Monitoring the system is not right practice of the only by me revealed and given way of Adidam. Right practice is turning to me, not dwelling on the content of the psychophysical system. In order not to indulge a pattern of ego self, you must devotionally turn to me moment to moment. You must not indulge the pattern of the ego self, either inwardly or outwardly. The pattern of ego self is your bondage. The practice of the way of Adidam, moment to moment, is not to indulge in that ego pattern. How are you to not indulge in that ego pattern? By turning all the faculties, body, emotion, mind, and breath, to me, ignoring the interior contents of the faculties, and truly serving me, such that you drop the outer performance of ego patterning. Such is the very practical nature, real and right moment-to-moment practice of the way of Adidam. Non-indulgence in the ego pattern, demonstrated as the responsive and really counter-egoic activity of turning to me, both inwardly and outwardly. In the practice of the only by me revealed and given way of Adidam, whatever you must do to accommodate me, both inwardly and outwardly, is your obligation. If you do not thus oblige yourself, you are not living the practice I have given, and therefore your relationship to me is not right. The practice of the only by me revealed and given way of Adidam is to go beyond egoic patterning. When you, as my devotee, truly turn to me and truly serve me, you are inherently transcending the ego pattern, both inwardly and outwardly. The practice I have given you is always very practical. Fundamentally, that practice is devotional turning to me and devotional service to me. That practice is how you break out of the ego patterning of the faculties of the body-mind. In that activity, ego-transcending disposition, you are simply turned to me. In that case, you behold me searchlessly, because you are always at me. In that position of beholding me, you commune with me, and in due course, you receive my spiritual transmission of my bright state of transcendental self-abiding as egoless, loveless radiance, or indivisible conscious light. Thus, the searchless beholding of me becomes a spiritual matter. If you presume yourself to be a solid something, and you approach me as if I were a solid something, then it is one over against the other. One cannot make right practice out of that situation. Human beings tend to persist in being the same thing, merely perpetuating their egoically pre-patterned existence. In time, they will be dead. If that is enough for you, that is your choice, but it is the choice of a fool. Fundamentally, the impulse to right practice comes from disenchantment. Disenchantment with what you are otherwise tending to do. Your entire search, your entire experience of living in this primate wilderness of humankind. Such an existence is not it. Such an existence is diverted from what is truly great. Such an existence is empty. Discovering that this is so grants you the impulse to realize reality or truth, and moves you to find a true spiritual master. Thus, having found me, why would you maintain your preoccupation with what you were supposedly already disenchanted with? You must stay focused. The only by me revealed and given way of Adidam is a specific ego-forgetting practice of going beyond self-contraction by turning to me. That turning to me is a discipline that is both inward and outward, exercised inwardly through the fundamental practice of whole bodily turning to me, which practice relinquishes attention from all ego patterning and exercised outwardly through service to me and the various other modes of outwardly active practice of the way of Adidam. This inward and outward discipline is the essential practice for which my devotees must be responsible, moment to moment. The rest of the process of the way of Adidam is mine to do. I am here. I am present. I self-manifest my self-evidently divine state and my bright spiritual force of divine presence. My spiritual force of divine presence is what brings you into my divine self-condition or my self-evidently divine state. Such is what I do in relationship to my devotees. You, as my devotee, must do the inward and outward disciplines I have given. Such right doing is necessarily based on devotional recognition response to me, and it is a matter of constantly accommodating me. In order to accommodate me, you must actually change your life. Otherwise, you are merely living out your pre-established ego patterning. 3. Traditionally, when an individual is recognized to be a spiritual realizer, the first thing that is done is that he or she is set apart, or provided with a right circumstance, and thereafter perpetually served. Such setting apart of a spiritual realizer is done by those who would be that one's devotees, because without such setting apart, a realizer cannot function as a master and will most likely simply remain unknown. Why have devotees always set apart the realizers they discovered, approaching them thereafter as their masters? The reason that the setting apart of a realizer is necessary is that realization is a spiritual state in which even the body-mind of the realizer is transformed to an extraordinary degree, and such a transformed body-mind cannot exist under ordinary existence. Thus, a true realizer is not simply one who utters a teaching. Rather, a true realizer is the incarnation of that which he or she has realized. If you were walking down a beach, you might find all kinds of fragments of shells and bits of this and that washed up from the sea. However, if you found a diamond the size of a football, you would know you had found a unique treasure. You would not treat such a discovery like a broken bit of shell. To find a true realizer, not just a talker, but one who has been even bodily transformed by the spiritual divine, is to discover such a unique treasure. There are degrees of demonstration of divine self-realization in the modes of the 4th, 5th and 6th stages of life. And now in my divine avataric case, in the ultimate mode of the 7th stage of life. Nevertheless, all degrees of real God realization are about the same fundamental matter, the same reality. True devotees worship their spiritual masters with their lives, because true devotees have discovered that the spiritual master is the incarnation of the very person of the state they would realize, the state that they understand to be the ultimate purpose of life altogether. My true devotee heart recognizes me to the point of being constantly turned to me with every principal faculty. If you are truly heart attracted to me, rather than simply associating with me in an egoic manner, you go beyond separate self in your turning to me. If you are not truly heart attracted to me, and thus do not truly heart recognize me, you simply play off me as the ego's other, either a social other or an organizational other, or a merely ceremonial other. None of that is true devotion to me. The devotion relationship to me is attraction to my avatarically self-manifested divine person and my divinely self-bright state. When you are truly heart attracted to me, the self-evidence of my avatarically self-revealed divine state is tacitly known by you in the instant of sighting my avatarically born, bodily human divine form. Thus, those who heart recognize me are whole-bodily turned to me, simply because they are heart attracted to me. Those who heart recognize me are not coming to me merely to get something for themselves. Those who heart recognize me are only turned to me. My thus true devotees always serve me. They always relate to me through gifts only, and they always live in accordance with my divine avataric word of instruction. Thus and so, my true devotees live the heart relationship to me in an entirely lawful manner. As Narcissus, you presume that I, in my avatarically born bodily human divine form, am merely another human primate. As Narcissus, you presume that I, in my avatarically born bodily human divine form, am just like you. That I, in my avatarically born bodily human divine form, am in the same state as you are, and involved in the same kind of activities as you are. Thus, as Narcissus, you presume that I, in my avatarically born bodily human divine form, am an ego who functions socially, organizationally, and merely ceremonially, or in a conventionally religious manner. However, all such presumptions are merely the signs of an egoically ignorant life state in which you are not heart recognizing me. To make any such presumption is to be unaware that this divine avataric revelation body is spiritually transformed and in a profound condition, utterly unlike that of others. This body is the unique means for the most perfect divine liberation of all who heart recognize me and heart respond to me. This body is the unique revelation of the perfect way to realize the divine conscious light. Thus, right practice of the only by me revealed and given way of Adidam cannot be based on any instruction manual list of behaviors and doctrines that you outwardly accommodate and use as a costume in which to mum and seem. Right practice of the only by me revealed and given way of Adidam can only be based on true heart recognition of me and whole bodily heart response to me. If you are heart attracted to my bright divine state, avatarically appearing here in incarnate bodily human form, and altogether spiritually self-manifesting, then you have the basis for right practice of the way of Adidam. If you are not yet manifesting such heart attractedness, then you do not yet have the basis for right practice of the way of Adidam. If you are my formally practicing devotee, you must base your practice on the way of Adidam on heart recognition of life, and therefore on being heart attracted to my bodily human form, my bodily incarnate person. My avatarically born bodily human divine form is not merely an image on which to focus. I am the one to whom you, as my devotee, are heart attracted and to whom you cannot help but be turned. And I am the one to whom you, as my devotee, are heart attracted and to whom you cannot help but be turned. And I am the very and inherently egoless person, state and condition you must realize. Therefore, you must not merely concentrate on me, but you must surrender and give yourself to me, wholeheartedly and entirely, and in an utterly ego-forgetting manner. I have compared this heart-attracted heart recognition of me to the experience of being in love. When you are in love, you cannot possibly forget the loved one. Thus, you are always preoccupied with thinking about that one. Thus, you are inherently turned to whatever attracts you. This is a metaphor relative to the nature of devotion to me. If you are heart attracted to my bright divine state of person, I avatarically incarnate here and uniquely shown through a spiritual transformed body, then you are inherently moved to serve me and to live in accordance with my divine avataric word of instruction. You will not do so otherwise. If heart recognition of me is not the case, everything you do and say as an effort of would-be devotion will be mere double talk, mere seeming, mere playing of a strategy. The degree of your heart attracted, if heart recognition of me is not the case, everything you do and say as an effort of would-be devotion will be mere double talk, mere seeming, mere playing of a strategy, mere going along with the mumming. The degree of your heart attractedness to me is the degree of your devotion to me. This is what I look for in my devotee. And are there signs of heart attractedness to me? Is there a conversion of life? Is there the relinquishment of all preoccupation with worldliness and the habits of patterns of egoity? My true devotees live a right life, and my true devotees truly serve me. As a result, my true devotees are, very soon, entered into spiritual dimension of the relationship with me. Therefore, if you are my devotee, you must not waste years quibbling over the necessary disciplines, whether or not to surrender to me, and whether or not to consistently fulfill my divine avataric word of instruction. Such weakness of purpose is not devotion. Adidam is a participatory way. Therefore, to be a full participant in the culture of Adidam, you must have fully established the foundation practice of the way of Adidam. You must not still be in or of the world. You must have turned away from worldliness, and you must have embraced the foundation, discipline, of the only by me revealed and given way of Adidam. When you have fully established the foundation practice I have given, then you are no longer merely a worldling. You are attracted to me rather than to the world. In that case, you are practicing the way I have given. You do not become a true devotee of mine simply through the ceremonial taking of a vow. When you take the vow of my formal novice, student, beginner devotee, you are beginning the process of becoming my devotee, but you are not yet fully established as a devotee of mine. Devotion to me is a practice, not merely a condition of being under a vow. You must fulfill the vow. I am here to spiritually manifest my own bright divine self-condition, and on that basis to spiritually bless people who come to me rightly and are prepared for my divine spiritual blessing. The purpose of coming into my divine avataric spiritual company is not to confirm your illusions. Spiritual reception of me is not, in any sense whatsoever, a confirmation of your ego-possessed inwardness. To rightly come to my divine avataric company for the sake of receiving my spiritual self-transmission of the divine self-condition is to approach me by means of devotional and whole-bodily worship of me. It is described as the searchless beholding of me because, as one who is rightly and truly prepared to receive me spiritually and thus and thereby to spiritually commune with me, you are already, by virtue of previously established right practice, entirely surrendered to me and always constantly serving me. Thus and so, you are entirely and constantly heart attracted to me, above and beyond and prior to all else. To be my devotee is to set life apart from being destroyed by the world, by death, by darkness, and by ignorance. Devotees of mine establish a set-apart culture, a cooperative sacred domain in which to live the devotional and, in due course, spiritual life of heart communion with me. My true devotees are not preoccupied with worldliness. My true devotees serve me 24 hours a day, under all circumstances, in all relations, in all moments, and always whole-bodily turning to me. My true devotees do not turn to the world or to the patterns of egoity. My true devotees turn to me because they are heart attracted to me. They know that I am the self-manifesting divine truth that is reality itself. They understand that turning to me is merely for the most perfect realization of that. My avatarically self-revealed and self-evidently divine state is always already the case. However, it is the responsibility of my devotees to create the earthly circumstance in which my perpetual divine state can be constantly manifested. Instead of my state being imposed upon by any form of human patterning, it should never be demanded by anyone that I subordinate myself to egos by conforming to the egoic condition. All who are moved to approach me and relate to me should simply conform themselves to my bright divine state. In this manner, they will allow my bright divine state to be manifested, self-manifested, 24 hours a day. You conform yourself to my bright divine state by offering me gifts of practice and service and by searchlessly beholding me. Such is the divine law. Such is the sacrament of universal sacrifice, which my devotees otherwise enact in the communion hall. All modes of speech and action that take any other form should be disallowed by my devotees. Therefore, always heart recognize me and always commune with me. If you are heart attracted to my self-evidently bright divine form, then prepare yourself to come into my divine avataric spiritual company, where you will most directly see my self-manifestation of my own divine self-brightness. Duh.